I think what Stacy is sharing, we've all touched in some way. I experienced it just this morning. I'm staying in a guest quarter, so I didn't have my normal coffee kit stuff. And when I got up this morning, I had to hit the street. I'm in Venice Beach in Los Angeles. And if you haven't ever been here, I'm like a half a block from the beach. It's kind of like a circus. It's like a circus masquerading as a town inside of a gigantic city. So I walked out into the circus first thing this morning, early. And the very first thing I encountered was a long line of people who were waiting for free food. So they were homeless, drug addicted. It was a long line of folks who looked like they were having a bad day. Very first thing I saw when I walked out onto the strand, onto the beach to walk a block to the cafe. And did I feel some feelings, right? Because as you described, Stacy, the practice makes us very vulnerable in some senses, right? We open our hearts, be kind, right? We open our hearts when we connect, when we make honest contact with what's really happening. And so I'm walking along this line of people who are just looking angry, sad, sick. And what am I doing, right? I'm walking to go spend $5 on a latte. In a pretty fancy place, actually. The nearest coffee shop is kind of a fancy schmancy cafe. And, I've got my, $20, $30 thermos, you know what I mean? I'm wearing nice clothes. And I felt all of the feelings. I felt shame. I felt guilt. I felt sadness. I felt despair. I was like, oh man, I just want to go buy 100 coffees right now. And like give every single person in this line and the briskness of this morning something hot to drink. But I can't afford to do that. Nor did I have the time, right? Because I had to be here. And so I left the line, right? And I had maybe a half a block to walk still to get to the cafe. And I had to remind myself, like, whoa. That's not your fault. Like, you don't have any cause to feel shame or guilt. That's just how the system is. I mean, I'm a part of that system. I'm not completely free from responsibility. But to have responsibility is not the same thing as having blame. They're two different things. So I have a tremendous responsibility when I see something like that if we look at our lives like a candle, right, because they're short and finite and burn very brightly, but for a very short period of time in the grand scheme of things, I have a responsibility, as I see it, to shine my light in a way that dispels some of that darkness. Because I'm part of it. I'm in it. I'm not separate from that. Well, when I first got out of the monastery, I was homeless for quite a while. I lived on a buddy's boat, out in the bay in San Diego with no electricity and no running water. Not just because it was cool, but because I was broke. So we're in this together. But at the same time, like, I'm not in a position right now in this moment to really deeply help any of the people on that line. As much as I would love to, right? I would love to just walk over and just grab somebody's hand and be like, let's go. You and me, we're going to have breakfast right now. And then I'm going to bring you back to my house and we're going to have a shower. And then I'm going to give you an outfit out of my travel bag. And you're going to have, right? I want to do all those things. but I'm actually not prepared to. I don't have those skills. I don't have the training. I don't know all the things that the social workers who actually go out and tend to the homeless on the streets have. I don't know how to manage it if that person starts to have a psychotic episode. And on and on and on. Right? And so actually, if I did that, if I just grabbed that random person and picked them up and carried them into my home, I would be doing them and myself a great disservice. Because I would be abandoning myself. I would be trying to do something I don't actually have the capacity to do. That doesn't mean that I get a free pass, right? That doesn't mean that I am devoid then of responsibility. And so instead I have to, as I did while I was standing there waiting for my coffee, being treated so nicely by the servers and the baristas, I had to check my own privilege. And be like, wow, I am light years from the situation of the people on that line. What am I doing with this capacity? What am I doing to help? And thankfully, my answer is I'm doing a lot of things. I'm doing a lot of things. I'm doing everything I can to be kind, to be kindness, to be generosity, to be part of the solution. As simply as I live, I still give a little money to charity. As busy as I am, I still donate my time to other sanghas to spread the teaching, because I know that there are only 3,000 snack jackets in the whole world. There's only 3,000 of us on the whole planet. I wear that as a responsibility. I don't get to just sit around thinking about the things I learned from Thich Nhat Hanh by myself. I have to teach. And just so it is for us. Whatever we have learned, wherever we are at in our practice, we have a responsibility to double down, and really deeply love ourselves and accept ourselves and support ourselves in a way that radiates out, going back to the candle. And then before you know it, it happened for me over the course of the last 25 years. Before you know it, you start to feel good enough inside yourself that when somebody comes up to you with suffering, just by being with you, their suffering starts to diminish. Because they're like, oh, you're accepting and looking directly at the pain I'm offering. You haven't offered me a beer or a pill or a platitude. You're asking me questions. You're being with me while I cry. And that's how it begins. And then there is no answer. It's different for everyone how your practice of sharing the Dharma will manifest itself. Not everybody is gonna, spend their life jaw-jacking in front of a camera like me. Not everybody's as crazy as I am. I don't expect that. No, but each in our own way, we will just very naturally, as we love and understand, to stick with our theme today, and deeply understand ourselves, we will very naturally, it just starts to radiate out. And it can be frustrating because the people closest to us often have the hardest time hearing, because they can't see the change, right? My blood family see me as I was 30, 40 years ago, right? They see me as like the angry, aggressive adolescent Dave, or the, prone to violence, military Dave, and on. It's really hard for them to look at me and see Brother Dave as you may, because they weren't there for every stage of that. And I've made a lot of changes in the last 20 years. So we may never get to help the people, the absolute closest to us. And that's part of this. And that's hard. But wow, let me tell you. I've been on this path for a while now, and yeah. Then as I had to walk past that line again, right, to come back to this spot to open this call, I got to remind myself, like, yeah, I don't get to help those 100 people in a very direct way right now. But I get to be with 11 people today, and more that'll watch this recording who are all here trying to help each other. Like, we're part of the solution. We're part of the solution.